Hey, this past week, our dangerous prayer is, make me bold. And I was thinking about how the men and women in Scripture, and sometimes we get to read of their weaknesses, which, by the way, helps me to relate to them, maybe does you. And sometimes we get to read of how they lived a bold faith, which inspires me, and I hope it inspires you. Make me bold. And it reminded me of a story that many of us have heard. It's even in, children's Bibles. I remember hearing it growing up in Sunday school and in children's worship. But like most children's Bibles, including this one, and classes, what I consider the most memorable, repeatable, make it true in my faith line of the story, not even included. So 600 years before Jesus is born, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon conquered the city of Jerusalem. The Babylonians rounded up the best and brightest of the Jews and marched them to Babylon. 4 of them you know by name: Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's how these young men from Judah ended up in Babylon. Well, in chapter 3 of Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar makes a statue that's 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide, and makes this rule that when the music starts, everyone has to bow down and worship it. And everyone did. Picture the moment. Music, vast assembly of countless people from all kinds of tribes and tongues. Bow. But then through the crowd, there's a ripple of noise. Quiet at first, eventually heard even over the music, because at the front of the pack, 3 of the highest ranking officials in the country are still standing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Everyone else is on the ground, they're standing. And Nebuchadnezzar cannot believe this. He's not used to people saying no to him. And they were slaves, and he made them leaders. And I think maybe because he kind of likes them, he gives them a second chance. And he says, when the music starts, you bow. But if you don't worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to deliver you from my hand? Basically, he's saying, obey me or else. This week, we are praying, make me bold. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had either already prayed this or did pray this in this moment. I say that because of their response. And this may be the line you missed in the story as a kid or maybe even as an adult. It's in Daniel chapter 3, verses 16 to 18. King Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we're thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you've set up. And we love this because God did save them. And we love stories like this, when God's people are bold and God saves them. But we know he doesn't always, because bold doesn't mean safe. He didn't save Stephen, who was murdered for his faith. Tradition says Paul was beheaded for living his faith. All of Jesus' disciples except one were martyred because they lived their faith. I have friends in other countries right now, 2020, who lose their life because they live their faith. Bold. But can I tell you, and you know this, when you stand up, you stand out. Jesus said, you're the light of the world. And you know what it's like to stand out like a light in darkness. And it's not comfortable. As a Jesus follower, you know what it means to pray for boldness to live your faith. Because when you don't compromise, you probably aren't getting the second date. You don't get the promotion. You don't get the grades you could have had if you cheated. There are groups in your school or at work or in your neighborhood, on Facebook, you won't get to be a part of. Pray anyway, because a world that is dark needs the light. Be bold.